here are my foundations. Shockingly, this is not all of them. I am actually missing one. Um, we'll just we'll just begin. We have the Maybelline Dream Satin Liquid. I have gone through an entire bottle of this before. I actually really like this formula. It's very sort of, it's a thick formulation, but it doesn't look heavy on the skin. It's very nice and glowy, full coverage. Really enjoy it. And then we have the Maybelline Superstay Foundation, which is, again, still full coverage, very light on the skin, but it's a thinner formula. It gives more of a skin-like texture. And we have the Too Faced Born This Way. There's no real rhyme or reason to this layout. I haven't organised it into drugstore or anything like that. But this is the Born This Way foundation. I did cave in and buy this because of the hype surrounding it. I've used it a handful of times and I can't say I enjoy it very much. I do find it's very sort of dry looking on the skin, and I was under the impression it was supposed to give a glowy finish. It definitely does not sit very well on my skin. I find the formulation rather thick and a bit difficult to blend, and the coverage does leave a little bit to be desired, because again, I was under the impression that this was the all singing, all dancing answer to the foundation prayers, and it's just not. Next I have my Smashbox Studio Skin Foundations. I have it in the shades 1.1 and 0.5. This one's a lot more yellow, this one's a bit more pink. I love this foundation. It's very full coverage, very thin consistency, very long wearing. If a foundation was ever going to make a claim of being 24-hour wear, this would be one that can hold that title. You could apply this on at 6 o'clock in the morning, wake up at like 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it would still look good on your skin. Wouldn't recommend doing that, but if you woke up, you would still wake up looking good. So there you have your Studio Skin from Smashbox. The Revlon Photo Finish Airbrush Effect. I preferred the original Photo Finish. Mine has been sitting a while, it's separated. But I did prefer the original Photo Finish. It had a bit more of a thicker consistency to it. I do like this. It is very nice and glowy. It doesn't have quite as much glow as the old formula did. So probably not something I would repurchase. Then we have the Dior Forever Foundation. This is, I believe, the old formulation. They've come out with, I think, 3 different versions of the Forever Foundation now. I do really like this. It was a foundation that I had my eye on for a good long while before I finally bit the bullet and bought it. And then they went and redid the whole Forever skin range. So I wish I kind of wish I'd held out a bit and gotten the new formulation. I do feel the colour is a bit off. I have it in the shade 010, whatever you want to say it. Is definitely anything other than winter. In the winter I definitely can't wear this. It's very a bit too orange, a bit too dark. As for the coverage, the long wearness, such bad English. As for the coverage and wear time, I'm very impressed with this foundation. It is really, really good. It is definitely worth the money if you're looking for an investment luxury foundation. Makeup Forever Matte Velvet Plus. If I remember rightly, this has been discontinued, or it's been reformulated and called something else. But either way, I don't think I've used this foundation more than once or twice, and I can't remember what I thought of it. I remember buying this on recommendation of Makeup by Tiffany D. It looks amazing on her skin. I just haven't had the opportunity to use it. as I say, I've used it maybe once or twice, but I have no memory of its performance, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We have the Studio Fix Fluid from MAC, which is just your base level foundation, shall we say. It's not a particularly matte foundation. It has really good coverage. It has decent wear time to it. This is just kind of the benchmark of foundations. Everyone at some point in their makeup journey has purchased this foundation, which is why I picked it up, because I hadn't tried it. It was supposed to be, everyone compared the Revlon Color Stay foundation to this, and I think this is a lot better than the Revlon Color Stay foundation, which, based on the price tag, you would assume so. Then we have the Pro Longwear foundation, which is kind of similar to the Studio Fix. It's just got a slightly higher coverage, a slightly thinner consistency, and longer wear. But the one I love the most is the Pro Longwear Nourishing Waterproof Foundation. This stuff is amazing. It has great coverage. It's skin-like, lasts a really, really long time, and it is a much cheaper alternative to, I'm jumping ahead here, but it's a much cheaper alternative to the Tom Ford waterproof foundation. So I would highly recommend this guy if you need your makeup to look really flawless for a long time during hot weather. This one is the best one to go for. And then we have the MAC Studio Sculpt, which I think is gorgeous. It actually, to me, is very similar to the Maybelline Satin Foundation. So if you like this foundation and want a bit more of an investment one, a different color range, this would be a good one to go for. Or if you like the Studio Sculpt and you want a budget version, go for the Satin Liquid. I really like it. It sort of gives the, as a friend once described, it gives the skin sort of a mannequin-like finish. It is very, very dewy as well. It's definitely not something I would recommend for oilier skins, but it just sort of smooths out sort of lumps and bumps in the skin and just makes the skin look very smooth and glowy, and it has really good coverage. It's not necessarily full coverage, but it's definitely a decent level. Next we have the Kat Von D Lock-It Foundation, and I'm not saying this to be hating, but I hate it. I find the consistency very thick, difficult to blend. When it sets down on my skin, it just makes me look so old, and it doesn't really last all that long on me either. I can maybe get like 8 hours wear out of it, but when we're talking, I'm used to foundations like Smashbox, where I could have a 16-hour day and still look flawless. This is not providing that for me. It's a very similar case to the Too Faced Born This Way. I bought it because of the hype, was very, very, very disappointed. It is not all it's cracked up to be. Save your pennies. The Urban Decay All Nighter Foundation. Again, I think I've used this more, maybe once or twice. I can't remember how it performs, so I can't really comment on it. But the Urban Decay Naked Skin Foundation, I really liked it. It's called the Weightless Ultra Definition Liquid Makeup. I really like this. It's a very nice sort of light to try that again. Light to medium buildable coverage. But it has a really nice glow to it, but it does have good longevity to it. I have like mostly normal skin, but if we're going more to like that time of the month or even during the summer, I tend to have a bit more combination, slightly oilier skin. So for me, sort of a lightweight, a light coverage, glowy foundation, anything like masquerades as like a BB cream, I cannot get away with. But this I can get maybe 8 to 10 hours out of it, which is great for this style of foundation. But if you're talking like matte finish, long wear, full coverage foundation, you only get 8 hours out of it. That's pretty pants. But for this style of foundation, that is pretty good for me. 8 to 10 hours wear. And then we get into number 7, the Hydra Luminous Moisturizing Foundation. This is new launch, came out earlier in the year, and I love this so much. It is like a long wear, hydrating, like a dewy matte finish, if that makes sense. Like your face is like matte, but it has a glow to it. It is beautiful. It is amazing. It has got really good coverage, really long wear. I love this stuff. I wish I could wear it more. I really do. The Lift and Illuminate, unfortunately, I haven't actually had a chance to try yet. I picked these guys up at the same time, but I haven't tried this one out. This is actually a serum foundation. I actually wanted to compare this one to the Touche Eclat. I'm not saying the Touche Eclat is a serum foundation, but it's a bit of like a buzz product that's been launching over the last year or two, is serum foundations. The Stay Perfect foundation I really like. Again, it has really good medium to full coverage, good long wear. It has like a velvety finish. The matte version that they have, my sister-in-law, she uses the matte version because she has quite oily skin, and it looks amazing. So I would highly recommend using the matte one if you're looking for that sort of, if you do have like quite intense oily skin, give the matte one a try. If you have like combination to oily skin, give the Stay Matte a try. Stay Perfect even. Or you can use the Super Light foundation, which I'm pretty sure they still make. Again, it's in the Stay Perfect range. Is really, really nice. Again, this kind of falls into like the Buzz product range, where every brand was coming out with these sort of water, I've got another one over here, sort of water weight foundations, very thin, watery kind of product, but they also pack a punch in their pigmentation. It totally changed the foundation game. If you're looking for a slightly more budget option, the number 7 one is a really good one to go for. I've tried the Estee Lauder one, and I also have the Chanel one, which I haven't actually tried, so yeah. But compared to the Estee Lauder one, it's a much better colour range from number 7. Then we sort of come into Avon corner. I will pass over this briefly because I know a lot of people don't like to hear about it. But I have the new 2-in-1 compact foundation, which I haven't tried yet. I've swatched it and it looks like it's going to be a good colour match. It's kind where you have like the colour and some moisturising serum swirled in. I also have the standard 3-in-1 foundation, and I have a matte version of this which I can't find at the moment, and that's the missing foundation out of the bunch. I have 2 from MARC. The Glow On I haven't tried. The nude matte one I can't get to apply properly. I will say, just as a side note, from my experience with the products that Avon provide, the MARC range just seems to be subpar. If we're talking like the Avon True Color range, everything from that seems to be great. The MARC range, the only products I've really liked are maybe like their lipsticks and their brow products. Their face products leave a lot to be desired. And we have the True Color Flawless Liquid Foundation. This is really nice. It's kind of falls along the same lines of like the Studio Sculpt foundation, the Super Stay from Maybelline, that sort of style. It has a nice sort of like satin finish to it. It has good coverage, has good long wearing. I'd say you get maybe like 8 to 10 hours out of it. I wouldn't recommend it if you've got oily skin. Like even if you had like really dry skin, I wouldn't recommend that either. If you're more like in the normal to combination range, this would probably hit you right in the nose. And also, while we're talking about Avon, I've got 2 of the age transforming foundations from Anew. They're both the same colour. I really like this foundation. It's a good dupe for the Touche Eclat foundation. The Touche Eclat foundation is something like, I want to say it's like £34 now, somewhere around that mark, whereas this guy is like 12. So yeah. I have the Laura Mercier Candle Glow Soft Luminous Foundation. This is the first Laura Mercier foundation I've ever purchased. I wish I'd held out for the newer one that's out. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's something Flawless foundation. This I'm not really loving. It kind of falls the same way as the Born This Way foundation. I feel like I have to pump so much of it to get it spread over my face. But by the time I've done that, there's too much product on my face and it just looks a bit crap. And it doesn't really last all day either. And you'd figure for like something that claims to be soft luminous that it would be like a longer luminous foundation, sort of a matte foundation with a bit of a glow. So it would be longer wearing. But I don't find that at all. So yeah, a bit of a miss for me. The Oriflame The One Illusion Aqua Boost foundation. Oriflame is a company similar to like Avon, catalog based direct sales, but it offers decent products. This foundation is a really sort of thin, lightweight, really full coverage foundation. Like 2 pumps of this will do your whole face. It'll be beautiful and it'll last all day. I really like this. I'm more using this as a mixer foundation because the picture in the catalogue did not show this colour. Like, this is a lot lighter of a colour than what I thought I was getting. I thought I was getting something more this colour. So you can see. But it is beautiful. I would recommend checking it out if you've got a consultant near you. Then we have the Becca Aqualuminous foundation, and this is a serum foundation. It's the kind where you have a little dropper and it's very sort of serumy and hydrating and glowy, and again, for my type of skin, getting something this style that's gonna be long wearing is difficult. I will say this isn't the most long wearing thing in the world. I get about 8, maybe 10 hours out of it. I always set it with powder. It looks amazing on my skin. Again, with the colour, I definitely cannot use this in the winter. It is, I'd say it's a good light to medium coverage. You can't go too heavy with this because otherwise it will look like an oil slick on your face. Like some foundations, you could put maybe 2 or 3 layers on to build up the coverage. This guy, like, you'd maybe get away with 2 layers. Any more than that and it does start to look a bit odd on your face. The All Hours foundation from YSL is beautiful. It is very good coverage. It is a very hydrating matte foundation. I like the coverage. I like the colour. I like the long wearness. It's good. I haven't used it in a good long time because I've been trying to use up other foundations, but I can't wait to get back to it. Cannot wait. And then we have the Touche Eclat foundation that I've been referring back to. This is again a very sort of a thin consistency foundation. I wouldn't describe it as a serum foundation, but it is very lightweight. For the sort of glowy foundation that it is, it makes your skin look super, super healthy. I would definitely recommend this for anyone who's maybe 30 plus. Or if you have, if you aren't too oily, if you're a more mature skin, because I know that when women go through sort of the menopause, their hormones go through the roof, and we're talking hot flashes, oily skin, all kinds of craziness. But if you're not doing too badly through that time period, this would look amazing on more mature skins. The L'Oreal Infallible foundation, the matte one. I've not actually used this on its own. I've mixed it with other things and liked how it played with other foundations, but I've never used it on its own, so I can't really talk about it, which is a shame. Same with the True Match foundation. I use this in a mixer. I don't like it on its own. This is like the third bottle of this that I've purchased. I don't know, I keep going back to it because people describe this as like their holy grail. Again, it's like, it's a bit meh. It's a glowy foundation. It's got alright coverage. It's again light to medium. It's not very long wearing on my skin. I could get maybe like 6 hours out of it. So I just use it for mixing. Yeah, and I've learned my lesson this time. I'm not gonna buy it again. I like the concealers that go along with this, the Touche Magiques and the True Match concealers, but the actual foundation can just, it can stay away from me. Then we have the Clarins Everlasting foundation. I know it's in its box, but I have used this a good bunch of times. It is beautiful. It is quite a thick consistency foundation, but it smooths out really nicely on the skin. It has beautiful medium to full coverage. It is, you could go for full on flawlessness with this, put on a layer and then put on an additional layer, and it would look really nicely on the skin. It just melts right in. It doesn't like sink into pores or anything like that. And again, I think this might be good for like more mature skins as well. Clarins is mostly a skincare brand, and I do trust their foundations a lot to just look really nicely on the skin. They play really nicely with all different types of moisturizers, because sometimes you'll get a really nice sort of matte, well, it's not really matte, it's like a velvet, but you know what I mean, like when you get that type of foundation, when you're going more into the sort of satin, velvet, matte finishes, they don't always play nicely with moisturizers, and it can make the foundation break up a lot on your skin. That's good for playing with all different types of moisturizer. And then we have my Tint-Idol Ultra, which is very similar to the Everlasting foundation. I think this is just a touch less full coverage. This is more skin-like than the Everlasting is. As you can see, I do have 2 bottles of it. I did buy both bottles a lot earlier in the amassing of what you see. So yeah, it's going to be a while before I get to going through both of these guys. But I really, really enjoy the Tint-Idol Ultra. I had thought of trying the original Tint-Idol, which is a lot more of a luminous foundation. But I think I will just stick to this guy. It has a really lightweight coverage, skin-like finish, has sort of like a velvet matte finish, and really, really long wear. This is kind of on par with the Studio Skin from Smashbox. And next we have the Revolution Pro Full Cover Camouflage Foundation, and again, I think this is supposed to be sort of like a play on the waterproof foundations that we'd been seeing. You'll notice, if you follow makeup for a while, you'll notice product innovation comes in waves. For a while it was all about doing the water weight, and then it was all about serums, and then it was all about the waterproof foundations. And then like everything, like the main sort of trend the last 2 or 3, 4 years even is to make foundation very skin-like, getting pigment into high pigment into thin formulas. And this is very much a budget option of all of that rolled into one. I think it's great coverage. I think it's great longevity. It looks really nice on the skin. It's definitely, I would compare it to anything like the Pro Longwear Waterproof or the Tom Ford. It is of this ilk, but for a much more purse friendly price. So yeah, Revolution Pro. And being as we're talking about it, here's the Tom Ford Waterproof Foundation and Concealer. I heard about this originally through Gen 1. She is just one of my go-to people for makeup recommendations, like just generally anything. She does sort of like week in the life vlogs, talks about food, all kinds of stuff, and makeup, obviously. But this is actually, I really, really like it. And I got it when, I think it was either House of Fraser or Debenhams was doing a VAT-free session. Because there was no way I was paying full price for this guy. I think full price this was going to be like £68. And you were getting 20% off or something like that. So yeah, I picked it up at a really good price. It has really good coverage, really long wearing, it has beautiful finish. It is the epitome of luxury, but these two products are just as good. They are. They're just as good. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever be repurchasing this guy. And then we have the Tidal Ultra Cushion Foundation, which as you can see is still in its box, completely sealed. I've not used it. Which reminds me of another sort of foundation product, the Nivea BB Cushion, which again is still in its packaging. I haven't used. So yeah. And then I have my Giorgio Armani foundations, Luminous Silk, Lasting Silk, and the Power Fabric. I've used them maybe twice each, and I know I like them, I just can't tell you much about them. The colours are really nice, though I should have really been telling you guys colours, should have I? I have these in shade 2. Each of them are in the shade 2, although the Power Fabric definitely pulls a lot darker, as you can see in this lineup. But all three of them have really good coverage from what I remember. As far as like wear, I'm pretty sure they're all good 12 plus hour wear foundations as well. I will have to try them out again and let you guys know, but I don't remember having a horrible experience with them at all. I thought they were lovely. The Perfection Lumiere Velvet from Chanel. I don't think I've tried this. I'm pretty sure I've maybe swatched it a couple of times, but I don't think I've actually had this on my face. The Perfection Lumiere Foundation I absolutely love, but I have this feeling that this is discontinued, possibly. I remember Chanel had this range of like amazing foundations that they then went and discontinued a good long time ago, but I don't know if this is also discontinued. But again, this is sort of on par with like the Dior Forever, like your Smashbox, slightly less skin-like than the Smashbox, but not quite as full coverage as like the Dior one. I really like this stuff. The Max Factor Miracle Match Foundation, Blur and Nourish. I don't know if I've had this on my face. I don't know. I've had it kicking about for a long time, but I can't remember if I've actually used it by itself. I think I've mixed it with other things. I really love the Facefinity foundation, and I thought that this was supposed to be like a much glowier version of the Facefinity, and that's not to say that the Facefinity is like powder matte. It's like a velvet matte. But I wanted something a bit more luminous, and I thought this would be great to mix in with the Facefinity, and then I never got around to using it. So we have that. the complexion rescue from BareMinerals. This is the closest thing to a BB cream that I can get. This is a gel cream, a tinted hydrating gel cream. It is really nice. It is very hydrating. It's very glowy, but not to the point where you're like an oil slick. And it has really good like light to medium coverage. If you set this with powder, it's just as good as any sort of light coverage glowy foundation. But it's just a lot more hydrating on the skin than a foundation would be. Then we have the Clinique Super Balanced Silk Makeup. I think I've only used this maybe 2 or 3 times again. But I do remember liking how it looked. It is definitely a silk finish, very glowy. I did feel like it was very transfery, because that was one of its main claims, was it was transfer resistant, and I did find that it transferred quite a bit. But as long as you weren't, the areas where I didn't touch my face stayed on all day. And it did have decent coverage, a good medium coverage, if not buildable. But I would have to try it again to give you a full round opinion on it. And then we have the Clinique Chubby in the Nude, which is like a stick foundation. I actually really like this. It's not really like glowy, but it's not really matte either, and I wouldn't really describe it as a velvet finish either. It just kind of is. I know that sounds really weird, but it's colour in a stick. It's alright coverage. I would say it's very lightweight. I definitely think you could probably build it up. I don't know if I'd recommend this for like dry skin or anything like that. But again, I don't think I would recommend it for oily skin either. I definitely keep this around more for touch-ups, if anything. The Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. This stuff is the bomb. I will say, however, I do find it's too matte for me to use by itself. I always mix this with an illuminator. I use the shade 1N1. I've gone through a whole, well, I say a whole, I've gone through a whole 3/4 bottle of this before, because I actually bought my first original bottle off of eBay. I didn't want to pay full price for it, so I got one that someone was selling off. And I really enjoyed it, so I went and bought a full-size one in a more accurate shade, and I really like it. I think I've used this bottle like a handful of times. But yeah, it'll be a while before I get to using this properly. And then we have the Double Wear Light Foundation, which I've almost finished this bottle. It is very much the coverage of the Double Wear, but light. It is definitely more skin-like. Unfortunately, they have reformulated this, and it's now called a Hydra Matte Foundation. I've been and swatched it in the store, and it seems about the same formula, but I've heard from sources that it doesn't perform as good, which is a shame, because this had really good coverage. It was basically full coverage, but in a lighter formulation. It still lasted a good 18 hours or so. So yeah, that is a shame if the new formulation isn't as good. Then we have the Derma Blend foundation, which I've mixed a couple of times, because this is a super weird color. Like, it's very peach. Not pink, not orange, it is definitely peach. It's very brightening. It's very, like, I don't know. This is supposed to be like super full coverage, the Derma Blend, but I don't know if it is. Because I've just put it on my hand there, and it hasn't really covered up my little, well, it has. If I went over it again, it probably would. So yeah, we'll say it's like medium coverage, because I have the little red dot there, and that's usually what I test my it's usually what I test the coverage of foundations on, If it can cover that and make it look not red, then it's a good coverage. But I haven't had this on my face as a solo foundation. I did have one previous, like years ago, but it was in a totally wrong color. But when I could use it when I was tanned, it was really, it performed really well. It had great coverage, long wearing, all that jazz. But yeah, I don't know if they changed the formula or anything. So yeah, I'd have to give this a bit more of a test before I could give you an all-round opinion on it. Then we have my two NYX foundations, which it doesn't really matter because they're both discontinued. I don't know what's up with NYX lately. Like, a lot of, like, going in store, this is gonna sound bad, but going in stores seems to have gone to their head a little bit. Like, I know they've been in stores for like 4 years now, but it just seems to be they need to keep pumping out stuff so quickly, and they're like just ditching their OG stuff. Like the HD foundation is beautiful, and the Invincible foundation is basically the same, but it has slightly more coverage to it. I say slightly more. It says fullest coverage. This is really good coverage, the HD foundation did. And the Invincible foundation is like really good coverage. They both last a really long time on the skin. They have like a satin finish to them. They're not overly matte. They were beautiful foundations, but you know, they don't exist anymore. And to finish on a bit of a bummer, we have the Ulta Luminous Weightless Foundation. Again, this is sort of like the water weight, full coverage, skin textured finish foundation that's supposed to be all like full coverage, long wear, yada yada yada, from NARS, which I think I've used maybe once or twice. I can't remember how it performs, so I can't really tell you much about it. But, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is my foundation stash. And I feel a bit lightheaded from talking so much. I'm a bit out of breath. So I'm going to stop this video here and go put all this away. If you've got any other questions about anything, feel free to let me know in the comments and I'll try and answer to the best I can. I know I didn't give the color specifications for each foundation, so if that's the kind of information you're looking for, feel free to ask. If not, I will try and list it in the info box if I have the time to. And I will see you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.